Most of us, when we get ready to sit with a medicine, we get handed a list. No alcohol, no red meat, no caffeine, no sex. The list is almost always about what to take out. This conversation is about something else. It's about what to put in, what to tend to, what kind of body you bring to the medicine in the first place. My guest today is Dr. Sujatha Kekada. She's an Ayurvedic physician and a co-founder of AmrtaSiddhi, an Ayurvedic center here in Bali that happens to be right across the street from where I live. She's also been my doctor and Elaine's doctor for a few years now. So a lot of what gets talked about in this episode, I've learned firsthand and seen the impact it's had on my own personal life. Ayurveda has been in the conversation with plant medicines for thousands of years. Different plants mostly, different rituals, but the same underlying question. How do you prepare a person to receive something powerful without coming undone by it, while getting the most benefits possible from it? Dr. Sujatha brings a way of thinking about that question that most modern protocols miss. The body has its own intelligence. So do the plants. And the work of preparation in her tradition is the work of bringing these two intelligences into something like a conversation, well before the medicine ever enters the room. There's something she said during the episode that I quite liked. She said that you can't dye a dirty cloth and expect a clean color. The medicine fills whatever vessel you bring to it. So this one's about the vessel. Here's our conversation. I hope it supports you on your journey. Hi, Dr. Sujatha. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
It's nice to have you here, especially given you're actually my neighbor. AmrtaSiddhi, the center you created, is just across the street. So this is a unique thing. And yeah, I'm really glad you're making the time in your busy day to meet with me.
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me for this podcast.
I'm very excited about it because Ayurveda is actually something I've been learning from you and your team as well. And it's a fascinating tradition and has thousands of years of tradition. And for people out there that maybe haven't heard much about Ayurveda, what is Ayurveda concerned with? And tell us a bit more about its history.
Ayurveda is a medical system. It's a self-care method. It's a system of health and well-being coming from India. Ayurveda interested in providing people an understanding of their own self, their own physiology, and how to nurture and take care of yourself and know what's your strength, what's your weakness. So it's a science of life. So it offers a lot of things. And also Ayurveda promises, if somebody's interested in learning Ayurveda, it provides long, healthy, and happy life. So I guess we all want that.
Yeah. And what I've actually grown to really love about Ayurveda is it is a life system. It is more than a medical framework, and has been super helpful for me to contextualize our own health and also our own integration really of life and of plant medicine journeys and just living life in a good way. It's really helped us create a structure and an understanding of what's actually happening in our body and really aligning our philosophies of action with health. And that's been a very helpful thing for us, and it has a lot of years of tradition to it, and there's a lot of depth and knowledge to it. So today we're going to be touching a little bit specifically as it relates to peak experiences or plant medicine journeys. And I'd love to hear a little bit about what you believe is Ayurveda's perspective on peak experiences or big life experiences.
You know, there are mentioning of some of the psychedelic medications in Ayurvedic textbooks as well. It's need to be practiced. It need to be used in a very specific, very purified, very sacred form. So it's a mentioning of that is there when there is the intervention needed to be done with mind, particularly when the severity of the imbalance or a person's ability to express and live life is limited because of some trauma or some limited neuroconductivity due to toxicity, it could be, or due to life experience, it could be. So it's part of Ayurveda, and it is very integral to working with mind-body connection when we talk about bringing health and happiness to an individual.
I didn't know that Ayurveda text actually talks about these kind of medicines. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Bhang, which is something like marijuana related. So a lot of preparations are made using marijuana in the form of paste or drinks and all those things. As people have heard about culturally, Hinduism, when we talk about the deity Shiva, the Bhang preparation, which is a milky preparation made using a marijuana plant, is used for these purposes. Spiritual practices and opening one's consciousness to grasp and understand more. Also, there are other medicines in Ayurveda which are toxic, particularly datura is used as a medicine for the same purpose. And balataka is another medication which is also toxic and have some mind-altering properties. These are used in a very purified way, in a very subtle doses to help with the psychological disorders in Ayurveda. Not every medical or Ayurvedic practitioners are well versed in it. I particularly don't use these medicines, but I'm aware my teacher who I studied with has sometimes used in a microdosing when it is needed. He's very wise and a lot of experience. So one need to be very thorough and very understanding and need to have a lot of his own practice and awareness to use these medicines.
I'd be curious to hear your perspective or thoughts on plant intelligence and how Ayurveda or yourself sees that relationship between us and the plants.
Plants are a very integral part of my being and my practice. For me, it's almost like a love affair with plants. I can get into tears if somebody would chop my tree without telling me. So my team already knows they're never going to touch any tree without, even when they know that it's a rainy season and they need to chop the branches which is hanging over the roof. Plants contain intelligence, and that intelligence, it works on certain part of the body in a certain time, all those things. And there is a whole chapter, a whole book in Ayurveda called Bhaishya Ratna, which talks about what plants have much more potency on, what like an astrological presence, when it need to be harvested, how to prepare, all those things to enhance this awareness, the consciousness of the plant. So, which is nothing far away from what the Amazonian people also had this awareness and went to cultivate, harvest, and all these medicinal plants. This is integral part of medicine preparation, and every plant has its own intelligence. The targeted body part it's going to work on, targeted channels it's going to work on, different kinds of consciousness it also brings when you consume it. Also in Ayurveda, all the preparation, the classic medicine preparation is called yoga. The word, normally what we use yoga for just asana, the purely yoga means the union. That means it's a perfect combination of different herbs in different way of preparing. It brings that extraordinary intelligence to these preparations. From the plants itself, having impact on different doshas. We're going to look into it more later. And carrying the potency depending on the moon cycle, carrying the potency depending on the presence of certain nakshatra or the stars in the space, either enhances, decreases, stabilizes. So there's so much things to look into in detail. But there are some basic principles of when to harvest and how to prepare and what containers to use also imparts to making sure the medicinal preparations are best in its potency.
It explains sometimes where we have some pills of yours here and there's like over 70 herbs in one pill sometimes. And I find that amazing. The structure, the framework arrived to something so complex and yet so effective at the same time.
Right.
Plant medicines and things like ayahuasca or psilocybin or other master plants like that are very powerful intelligences, and the experience that we can have with them can also be quite intense and demand a lot out of us. So today we're going to talk about preparing for those peak experiences, and I'd be curious to hear if someone came to you and said, hey, doctor, I'm preparing for an ayahuasca journey in the jungle in 3 months. What would you like to know about them and how would you approach helping them prepare for such an experience?
Mm-hmm. I would like to know their intention first, because anything you do with intention, it's like, you're shooting at something, knowing where you want to shoot at. Curiosity is always good. But when you work with the plant medicine, you got to respect that. And you need to know why are you approaching those plant medicine? Why you want to connect and embrace that into your realm and your own body and mind. So I want to know the intention when they do it. So once they're clear with the intention, then I want them to really prepare their body with awareness, because you experience the mind qualities and what goes in your mind in your body too. So you cannot separate that. So those medicines works on your mind, your nervous system, your neurons, but the experience would be distilled down to your body. So you could have a better stable body and a still body so that you can experience the enormous effect of those plant medicine in a very stable, connected way. So this is one aspect, the stability, focus, mindfulness, before you go into the practice. And also your body need to be prepared for this experience to work very well for you. Simply talking about reducing inflammation in your body, reducing ama or toxins in your body, blockages in your body, having your digestive system work well, your sleep is more stable, so many other things. We can talk in details as we go through. But these things, they need to have a complete awareness of their body, where they are at, and what's their intention with this medicine, and how they can prepare to enhance the effect of this plant medicine journey they are planning to go for. So it's really important. And so many things that people can do before they go into the journey of plant medicine experience. So here today, we can talk about that. So this could be a guideline for people to have a great experience and also prevent any challenges and trouble which may occur if you're not ready.
Yeah, it's preparing a spaceship for the journey, basically, which is, in my first experiences, I never did anything, but now I think I see the preparation as its own journey itself. And there's a lot of different facets of it so that we can get the most benefit out of the experience. And you mentioned the body, and one of the first things I learned working with you actually was the three doshas. And I'd love for you to talk about that and perhaps like how different constitutions might prepare differently for their experience.
Three doshas are nothing but a group of attributes or energy that's responsible for group of functions. So there's three things constantly happens in our body: movement, there is accumulation, and then transformation. So simply, if we could group what life is and what physiology is, there's constant movement, breaking of your cells to circulation, to nervous system, nerve conduction, to transformation of the food into your body tissues and all these things, and then constantly sustaining this life, like we're not constantly breaking, but also building. So that's called, the movement part is called vata, the transformation part is called pitta, and the accumulation, keeping everything together, is called kapha. And some people we all have these three energy. That's why we exist. When it ceases, that's where the body is not in the form of three dosha being active. That's only goes back to the 5 element stage where the life force is not there. And some of us are predominant with this movement-based energy system. So those are, we call vata. Some people are constantly with the pitta energy stable, and then some people are more predominant with kapha. Most of us, 90% of individuals, are strongly with the two combinations. So one is very minimum. Very extremely, we see people are very predominantly vata, very predominantly pitta, or very predominantly kapha. So this is just an energy system, how your body functions. Identifying this helps you to know when to stop, when to begin, what time of the day you could do best performance in your life, and what's your challenges so that you can minimize. So, stress and life brings challenges all the time. So it's how I maintain the stress, how I respond to the stress matters when it comes to our happiness and our stability. So a different constitution would have different challenges. For example, if we're a vata person, which is a moving energy, that means their nervous system is very active, easily stimulated, they're very sensitive. And imagine a person who is going through a lot of activities and doing a lot of things, stressed, and not having a stable, grounded nervous system, jumping into do the medicine work. It means it's already a hyper. And when you do the medicines, it's just unlocking, right? So, different medicine does different things. If you're not stable and so much movement going on, you're likely to have a collapse and unwanted experience and trauma and psychosis even. So this is what can happen if your vata is not stable, your nervous system is not calm and in the state of overwhelming or fight or flight mode. So that's why it's very important, if you are a vata person or having a high vata symptoms of anxiety, stress, lack of sleep, agitated, nervous, you really want to ground yourself. Grounding the mind, calming the mind can happen through different Ayurvedic treatments, but you could have to work through your body. So once you do the rhythm and routine to your body, nourishing food, proper nourishment, all the nutrients, your mind would reflect that. So you cannot directly go and ask a vata imbalanced person to come sit down, meditate. It's not going to work. So you really want to do the soothing, grounding activity through a massage or spending time with a person that you trust and feel comfortable with, warm baths, going to hot springs, and these things can help to calm down the physical body. Then your nervous system would reflect that. So that's for a vata constitution. A pitta constitution usually, burn themselves out with strong ambition, pushing themselves, overworking and depleting their fire, like a burnout is a typical thing happens for a Pitta constitution, along with the support of the Vata. And when this happens, means it's a chance for in their body, like too much of inflammation and a lot of heat. So any kind of these plant medication, they have one common principle is they are very heating, because if it is not heating, it's not going to open and, volcano eruption, right? So that action needs to have a lot of heat and intensity. And plant medicine, no doubt, contain this ability to break things and ignite fire and connect, like create more sparks. So if you're a Pitta person in that stage of extreme inflammation, no doubt the medicine would work very well for them, but they might have, I've seen this in personally, when I was in Peru and worked with shamans and stuff, like they will have a great experience because they're capable of letting that experience go in, but afterwards they have a lot of inflammatory conditions. Like I've seen a very strong skin breakout, rashes and heat and burning sensation, all those things. So this could be a consequence for a Pitta constitution if they're not preparing well to take that heat in the body. A Kapha constitution, tendency for a Kapha constitution is accumulation, as I said. So their body can become too stagnant and channels could be blocked. And also another thing is their Agni, ability to digest and process. It's like a bit of a dullness is there. That means medicine may not work for them so well. So because there is a dullness, numbness inside. So they may need a little bit of a stronger dose of medication. And also the channels are blocked. That means the neuroconductivity, which is a primary thing that happens when we take the psychedelic medications, which may be delayed or incomplete. So they may not get the full benefit of that if you have a kapha imbalance in your system or your pure kapha constitution and you did not keep your kapha in a healthy state. So these are the three things on a simple way that if you're not preparing well and you may have the imbalance of these doshas, same dosha as your constitution or a different dosha away from your constitution, you may experience these challenges if you're not prepared.
Yeah, that's really interesting and fascinating for me. When I discovered I was Vata dominant with a tendency towards Pitta, so the fire is kind of getting a lot of air and it's burning me. It's burning me out, and that's even just knowing that has really influenced my life in terms of adjusting my actions and my thoughts and my practices. And also the time of the day, there's different cycles during the day. Like during the afternoon, you'll have maybe more of a Pitta effect on yourself. And, at certain times it's more of a Kapha period. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Dosha is influenced by the seasonal time and also day and night time. And also in our lifespan also. Like a childhood period is Kapha predominant. Adolescence and the middle age, until the middle age is a Pitta predominant, and later and after 55, 60, it's a Vata predominant. So age influences you. So that's why Vata is movement, and anytime it's moving, it's also combined with the quality of dryness and stiffness, like air. If you expose anything to air, it becomes dry, stiff, and rough. That means as we age, it's also predominated by Vata. That's why our tissue loses elasticity, system gets dry, degeneration process speeds up, all these things. Early childhood is a Kapha. Kapha is the energy of moist and juicy. It's earth and water. That's why we rarely see a child who is not juicy, plumpy, and they're elastic, and they're so juicy. So that's the Kapha period. And the middle age is a Pitta period. That's a one age related. And then during the day and night, also dosha influences us. Very early morning, from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is a time of Vata. That's why if you're a Vata constitution, this is something maybe very obvious to you, that you may wake up very early, around 4 o'clock wake up or 5 o'clock wake up, which is very normal because your Vata is in its peak state. And that morning Vata is actually excellent for one to do a sadhana or a practice related to your mind, increasing your consciousness, learning, studying, meditation, or visualization, anything that you want to work on enhancing your consciousness. That's why in yogic practices and a lot of spiritual traditions, they tell you wake up really early morning. It's actually called in Ayurveda, Brahmi Murta, means Brahma means the supreme consciousness, awareness, or the time of knowledge. So you wake up 45 minutes before the sunrise. You also see outside, everything is serene, calm. Vibrationally, it's much more in tune with the consciousness. So that means, we are a microcosm of the macrocosm. Whatever that we give the name and understanding we're trying to discover, it's much more potent. So our practices would have a greater benefit. So then after the 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock is the time of the kapha. So that's where we are in a much more stable, grounded way. That's where the exercise movement need to happen. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. it's a time of the pitta. So that's where, we are much more productive. We get our work done. Our digestive system is very strong. And if you look in the nature also, sun is very peak 10 to 2 o'clock. So all this decision making, getting a focused work done, that's a time for us to do. So that's why pitta predominant. This is useful for all the constitution if we want to tap the certain energy which we are lacking. And the people who already have this energy, for them to be mindful not to do anything to overstimulate. For example, if somebody is already a pitta constitution, they already have this ability to nicely focus, doing good job and stuff. They should not be going out in the sun and do a high intensity workout. I live in Bali. We see a lot of different things. I see people at 10 o'clock, shirtless, running under the sun, or going and doing a sauna at this time. This is something you don't want to do at that time to keep that balance of the natural pitta energy if you're a pitta constitution. And then from the 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So that's again the time of the vata. So that means at that time, you just want to undo because you had a nice sprouting, very potent vata early morning. You go into the cycle of pitta, you do all the focused activities and stuff. So there's a depletion of energy happens. So that means the vata start to get a little unsettled and unstable. And this is a time we want to focus on relaxing, having a cup of herbal tea, unwinding, connecting with people, light meals, going for walks. So just you nurture that vata from not getting depleted. And after the 6 p.m. again until the 10 p.m., it's a time of kapha. So that means that's a time you're getting ready to sleep and eat not heavy food, all those things. So we might have experience in our life, by 9:30, we naturally feel sleepy and we feel like we want to go to bed, but we tell to ourselves, oh, it's too early, and, go on internet or text people, make a call. So then we pass the 10 p.m. time and move into the pitta time, which is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So it's like, boom, the fire is up and we are too alert. We think we're so creative and we do all these things. So we don't go to bed. So that pitta time is needed for the transformation while our sense organs are not engaged with the world, because there's another world inside of us. So all the information we take during the daytime need to be processed. So when we sleep, it's like our organs does its work where it doesn't have an external things to deal with, either food or workout and all those things. So it's like a detoxification, rejuvenation, repair, all those things take place between 11 to 2 o'clock. And our liver is very active between, 1 to 2 o'clock. That's why people with too much of pitta, inflammation in the body, the liver working too hard, likely to boom, wake up around 1 to 2 o'clock, and then they can't sleep because it's so much intense work inside happening. So respecting this energy that's responsible for different physiology based on the dosha understanding, that's how you could really take best use of the nature, what the nature provides, different energy and strength for our benefit. So this is how the time zone affects different doshas in day and in night. And we talked a little bit about our age.
That's super fascinating, I find. When I first discovered this at AmrtaSiddhi, I was really floored by that and just really happy because it's a great practice to, even if you're not preparing for a peak experience, to interface with this every day. And that's a really good way to align your actions, right? And really quickly, how can someone find out their doshas? I mean, going to an Ayurvedic professional, of course, probably the best way, but is there other ways that people can maybe self-select a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. There are so many questionnaires outside on the website, but we have worked through my 20 years of experience and we have created a questionnaire. If they could go into www.amrtasiddhi.com, I think there is a dosha quiz on our page.
Right.
So they could do that. Perfect. And you will get a report of what your constitution is.
And then final question on the doshas, how can someone prepare for their journey and maybe pick a retreat date that would align well with their doshas from a calendar perspective? Is there a way that they can do that?
Yeah, I mean, did you mean by depending on their dosha, what season works them, or?
Yeah.
Seasons affects too. We talk to age, time. Vata gets impacted or aggravated naturally without you having to do much in fall season. So fall, leaves are falling, it's just wind. So that affects Vata. Summer is a season where the Pitta gets affected. Winter is a time where Kapha gets affected. So depending on which is your predominant dosha or which dosha area you see, like a kapha would feel sinusitis, allergies, all these things, then you know that your kapha is out of balance. Then you could do a cleanse during the winter to springtime. And a pitta should definitely be very mindful during the summer and not to do all the things that increases pitta, reducing, including activity, steam, sauna, all these things, and eating more fresh food and juices and raw foods and all those things are pitta's beneficial time to do a cleanse. And fall is a time a vata should be very careful in taking care of them, to keeping them warm, a lot of oil massages, eating soups and stews and grounding activities, even taking some nervous system calming herbs and all those things can help. And it generally where the nature just flicks a little bit of a button without our notice to create these imbalances. So seasonally, we could pay attention to different doshas like this.
I wish I knew this 10 years ago when I did most of my journeys. But yeah, you touched on it a little bit earlier, and I'd love to dive into that now, which is Agni and Ojas. And for people who haven't looked into Ayurveda, they've probably never heard of these terms. What does that mean, and how do you relate to that with preparation?
I have something to share with the Agni concept and preparing for the psychedelic or this plant medicine thing. Agni means fire, actually. We're referring here to digestive fire. The Agni means here the ability to process and digest. So it's not only food in our life. We need to process our emotions, our experiences, information, all those things. So Agni is constantly working physical body and in our mind also. With respect to plant medicine concept here, if your Agni is not working well, okay, leave behind your day-to-day food, not able to digest, day-to-day experience cannot be digested. But also when you consume this plant medicine, you may also have hindrance in digesting this plant medicine and getting absorbed and carried to the circulation into your nervous system. So there would be an hindrance. So that means when you're preparing for yourself, you want to make sure that your Agni is good. How do we know our Agni is good? A few criteria to keep in mind. Naturally feeling hungry, depending on your constitution. Hunger is an important sign that we are alive and everything is working well. A Vata constitution may have hunger, which is bit flickery, not so strong. That means once they sense the hunger, it may not last long. If they are distracted, the hunger is gone. The only thing later they will realize by getting hypoglycemic and shaky, then they start eating. So Vata need to be very mindful of sensing the hunger, regular eating, sitting down and eating. Pittas don't need to worry. We call them a hangry people. They get really emotional and grumpy and irritable. So Agni is generally good. That's why also I said Pittas generally, when you go to a psychedelic medicine experiences, they don't have the trouble, only later trouble because of the too much of heat. Kaphas are the one which I have compromised Agni because it's earth and water. The fire element is not there. So they need to be consciously keeping the Agni really burning. So for them, not ideal to eat heavy food which takes long time, fatty food, all these things. Having hunger sensation, eating 80% of the time the food groups that suits your constitution, not eating full stomach is the few simple things that we could do to keep this Agni working well. Mind level when it comes, emotions, experience, all those things, taking a pause after certain experience and just internalizing and understanding what is meant for you and converting that into a thought process and understanding for yourself. These are important. Otherwise, we can have indigestion of too many information, too many experiences. I always tell people that if you go to a course or learn something, take a minute to afterwards, close your eyes and just go through it. Let it sink in a different part of your brain so you can access this later. Otherwise, what happens is you only have the memory of, I have heard it. You don't know whether it's going to work or this is real. And then you have another information from another course or something. That's where people end up having too many confusions because they never had a chance to digest it, experience it for themselves, or process it so that they can access when they need. So to avoid this confusion, I highly recommend for people, any course you do, take a moment to digest, implement it, then jump in doing another course where you think that, okay, this part is missing for me. Where can I get that information?
Yeah, it's so important because we are kind of addicted to the new information, and we live in a world that kind of overloads us with information as well. So it's can be easy to just keep plowing through stuff. And with plant medicine, sometimes you don't have a choice to stay in the experience, but in general, slowness and space in between is a much more helpful way to integrate what happens after that as well.
I want to say something about the Ojas also. I think I did not finish it. This is something, it's like when you deposit money in the bank, what you get the interest. This is Ojas. This is something, that you could have extra, something that you could use it for anything that you need. Ojas is a result of good Agni. So when Agni is working well, then you could give the good food. Everything that you learn, you eat, everything turns into the form it should be, so that it creates a little bit of a nectar. Ojas is responsible for your immune system. Ojas is responsible how you deal with stress, your resilience, your stability, how you can tackle crisis, how you can access knowledge. All those things comes from Ojas. It's just simple from the result of digesting good food, digesting your emotion and experience. And there are a few things you could do to cultivate this Ojas. I think eventually when your experience of psychedelic medicines work as well, you absolutely create this Ojas, because those connections that happens, generally said, like we use less than 10% of our brain. So basically when you do the psychedelic experiences, so many connections happens. You heard and seen makes sense, and something which is blocked and stuck releases. So it's just, you create enormous amount of Ojas, which helps you to sustain your previous or life experience before that and process it. And people start to heal and have better connection, creativity, able to connect, heal traumas. All those things happens because you get a big boost of Ojas when you take psychedelic medications, if it's done properly.
Yeah, exactly. And I as a Vata, I'm classically, someone that tends to want to deplete my Ojas and just kind of plow. I might be Pete actually in that sense. I kind of like to plow through things, and in the past I've burned myself out quite often from pushing too much and depleting myself in that sense. You touched on it a bit with Agni, but in terms of digestion and diet, especially for ayahuasca journeys, are very common to provide a diet list, reducing red meat or alcohol or sugars and salt, or things that are quite common. Is there something that's from an Ayurvedic principle that is missing from that side of the preparation process, and something that people maybe aren't always being given in terms of preparing with their diet?
Definitely. Like you have done Panchakarma, and we give a list of things to prepare yourself for a Panchakarma, right? To a degree, it's, when I did my own diet, for me, it felt like I did it with the really Shipibo people in the jungle, no much big luxury facility and things, like I just in a Maluka, covered by mosquitoes and all these things. So really down to earth, original way of doing it. So diet was so strict. It was almost felt like a Panchakarma for me, my whole experience. And what you go through, the process of cleansing that happens when you do the medicine. Also, it's like your Virechana or Vamana process, the releasing a lot of unwanted things from your intestines and stuff. Definitely simple, easily digestible food, no sugar, no stimulants like coffee, heavy food like dairy, meat, all those things, or at least minimizing. And also coffee is such an integral part of our existence and culture. So when you do diet, you cannot have it. Coffee withdrawal gives you 2 to 3 days of headache and mood swings and all those things. So definitely any stimulants, sugar, dairy, excessive animal protein, and also keeping a lifestyle which is going to bed at right time, waking up at right time, gentle exercises, all those preparation, and basically bringing mindfulness, because you have an intention, and with that intention you prepare your body, telling that, okay, I'm going to go and receive or connect to this energy of the plant. I am ready and I'm mindful. I really care about it and I really want it. So all this preparation you do is already making you build a relationship with the plant, because you're constantly thinking and connected. So making these few things beforehand would greatly enhance your experience with the plants, and you will get better result.
My experience with that has been that it's much more than just a diet list, and it is a ceremony before the ceremony. And so just like the Panchakarma, like timeline of that leading to the purge and then the integration of that, it's quite similar actually in terms of that experience in terms of my own journeys. It's been the ceremony by itself. And let's touch a bit on ama, which you've also mentioned, which is kind of residue left that hasn't been incomplete. And you've been trying to reduce my ama for quite a while, and your team as well, and it's been working, but slowly. And so you mentioned cleaning the residues in terms of physical, emotional, and experientially as well. It accumulates in our body. Can you speak a bit about ama and the parallel between ama in the body and then unintegrated emotional and mental baggage in our minds as well?
Okay. The Ojas is this extra money you generate from interest from the bank that you could use for anything. Ama is opposite of Ojas, which creates efficiency in dealing with the stress. Your immune system is compromised. Your mind not able to, the foggy brain, dull, lack of inspiration, all those things can be experienced as a result of ama working in the nervous system. In the physical body, you could experience lack of appetite, not able to digest the food, gas, bloating, distension, generally feel stuck and stagnant, no life force. Ama is one of the biggest cause of inflammation, and ama is the cause of all the diseases, both physical and mental diseases. So one of the aim in Ayurveda to stay healthy is preventing formation of ama. And if you have formed the ama, it means you remove the ama by different methods. So Panchakarma is one of the method to deep-rooted ama in your cellular level, because accumulation can begin and then it goes deeper and deeper. So if you want to clear anything which is accumulated in your deeper cellular level, Panchakarma is the answer to, because it works on the cellular level, cellular memory, cellular intelligence. So that's a way to remove the ama, and clearing ama before you go to a medicine experience is very important, because your body vessel is clear. So anything you put in, it would, show the perfect color, perfect experience. Like it's always an example given by my teacher is like, if you want to dye a piece of cloth, you cannot bring a dirty cloth to dip it into color. It's going to give a weird color and weird texture. You want to have a clean cloth and then you dip. So same way, if you want to increase your consciousness, heal, repair through the plant medicine, you want to bring this vessel, physical body as much as possible, so that the medicine can help to clear the mind vessel as well. So you want to clear the ama beforehand. You may not be able to perfectly clean the ama, but it's better than at least first wash is better than no wash of the cloth at all.
Look at your tongue in the morning. That's something I've learned from you, is keep looking at your tongue and see what it looks like. And if you need to scrape it, go ahead and scrape it with salt and lemon or a scraper that you have at home. And so, yeah, that's been a clear indicator of me of like where I'm at with my inflammation. So just look at the tongue and also feel how my joints feel. So there's ways to kind of self-reflect on that at home. Let's touch briefly on sleep and rhythm. We talked about the seasons. We talked about the time of the day. We talked about the cycles of people's lives. In terms of sleep, and specifically in terms of preparation, can you share a little bit what it might mean for someone to be out of rhythm with that, and how that can affect their preparation and eventually their peak experience?
Sleep is mentioned one of the pillars of our existence, life, and health. Other two pillars are food, and the third pillar is a constant desire to cultivate knowledge and awareness. And I guess, one of the way to cultivate awareness is through the plant medicine journey also. Sleep is like renewal. Every day I get renewed through sleep. And if this renewal process doesn't happen, then I'm deteriorating. I'm deteriorating in a physical level. I'm deteriorating in my mind and nervous system function. People think that they do get the 8-9 hours of sleep, but if it is not at the right time, it's better to sleep like that than not sleep at all, because you have seen people become crazy if you can't sleep. At least if you can catch some sleep, even though it is at not the right time, it's still better. But what the consequences of not sleeping at the right time, if sleeping by 10:30 and until like a 6 o'clock is an ideal time for us to sleep. So Pitta is nurtured or Pitta is happy, and then you get active on the Kapha time. Kapha has a lot of stable energy. So we could do all those things. So sustenance becomes really very properly organized. If you sleep around like a 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, your ability to repair, reorganize, detox is compromised. And if you keep doing all these things for a long time, you create a bit of an ama and also unresolved processing of your thoughts and emotions and experience. So you're basically creating a right circumstance for an infection to catch you, or if you have some stress and breakdown, the recovery becomes too late because you don't have accumulated Ojas. Your system is very fragile, burnt out, and burnout happens through one of these causes. So that's why sleep at right time, right amount varies from different to different person, the amount of sleep. Where Pitta is always happy with 7 hours, 6 to 7 hours of sleep, and Vata would want to have a long sleep, but their charging capacity is a little too less. So if they can get 6-7 hours of sleep is good, but they should have a recharge again during the midday or just by doing a yoga nidra or a little cat nap. Kaphas are the ones who need much less sleep, but they are so loving their sleep, so they don't even think of reducing their sleep thing. So they love to sleep. They could do bit better with less sleep.
Oh, how interesting. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm Vata, and I wish I could get 8 hours of sleep. It's kind of like a pipe dream at this point, that's very difficult to get. But yeah, I think just taking a break during the middle of the day is really valuable. And I think in terms of the peak experience itself, I think that would also be important, is to find pauses and grounding yourself during the experience, because it's easy to go off as a Vata person. We've talked a little bit about the different facets of the body, but we haven't spoken much about the emotional and physical connection. If someone came to you preparing for a journey and you were looking at the emotional physical connection, what are the things that you'd be looking for to say, yeah, you're looking well prepared? Is it like balance of an emotional state, or what would you be looking for?
Emotionally able to be present, mindful, or not having extreme anxiety or panic attack. I'm more concerned about having extreme emotions of anxiety, panic attack, unstable, aggression. These things need to be stabilized before they go into the plant journey, because it's already volatile. It's like a volcano is boiling and the plant medicine is going to explode it. More than people who are going through depression, because for them it will be beneficial. Everything is stuck. It's going to be activated and reconnected so they can get out of this loop of same thought patterns and stuff. So having a stable emotions would very important before you go into the plant medicine. Some of the psychological conditions like severe panic attacks, anxiety, psychosis, all those things, you have to be really mindful. You need to make sure that you have seen a psychiatrist, your medicines are working well, you're doing lifestyle and diet that's very supportive. And then you have to start also very slow, and also with the practitioners who are aware of these things and know what to do if any challenge or crisis happens. So these are much more sensitive and concerns than somebody is too grounded or state depression and unmotivated and stuff. So for them, they have a better tolerance for these medicines than somebody who is very volatile.
That's a good bridge into the next question, which is honest contradictions. Like you just spoke about, the extreme ones, the ones that are most difficult to handle. Are there any contradictions, maybe physical or otherwise, that you would say, like, maybe you should delay, or maybe it's not a good idea to enter a peak experience?
If you're having any heart conditions, high blood pressure or arrhythmia, these kind of murmurs and valve issues, the heart issue, one I need to be really careful about it, not to do that, other than the other very diagnosed psychological conditions. And also, say if none of these things you have, or you worked on, you're stable, you have a good practitioner. I think once you finish the process, how you're going to integrate is very important, because you've been clean, you've been stopped smoking, drinking alcohol, all those things. But once the process finishes, you cannot just jump back into going back to your regular life. Alcohol can badly interact if you consume soon after. That's why, like when you do diet, and it's very strict, including salt or alcohol, extreme activities, all those things are recommended that you don't do it for a weekend or a month. Generally, I was told that alcohol should not be consumed for a month after the process. When you connect to that, your body is clean, your awareness is clean, and you don't want to bring anything that takes you from this connection to your heart, people, or the universe. I think any of these things it's altering. So you don't want to do any of these things. So I think keeping that sacredness after the session plays a huge role in what you're going to do with the experience and the new neural pathway connections you had, release you had, the processing that you had, and how you can sustain it. So this is something I want to stress, that it's really important how you transit after your session.
Yeah, and that's really important. Also, why preparation is also very important, because it sets the stage for the integration. You mentioned earlier that a lot of medicines have a very strong pitta quality to them. Would you say there's a way to make a wise decision on the dosage and the medicine you'll use depending on your doshas? Is that something that you've ever thought about?
Yeah, I think the dosage of medicine, let's say take any medicine, and also like medicines have three categories, like, some are work on serotonin, some works on a heart connection, and some work on something that helps into getting connection to the nervous system. I think if within these groups, when you're going to choose the medicine, I think a Vata constitution person, if the person is going through a lot and being sensitive, not so grounded, the dosage should be really small. And a pitta middle, and it also, energy of the pitta is also, if you look into constitutionally, it's an energy between kapha and vata. So middle dosage for a pitta constitution, and a kapha can take, and they may need a little bit, because there is a little bit of tendency of kaphas are not generally so sensitive like vatas. Vatas are the very sensitive people. That's why place, energy, people, everything impact their nervous system. Their insulation is much less. So that's why they need much little, pitta somewhere in the middle, and kapha could do a little bit bigger dose, because as a insulation is very high, that means something to penetrate and go work on something and knock something, they need a little bit of a higher dose and bit intensity.
That's very interesting. And you're right, I'm Vata and I'm very sensitive. So I've lowered my doses every year that I've ever taken the medicine. Is basically, I don't need that much actually. And
it's
nowadays
very interesting.
I feel life
the
is
more you're processing, more you're clear, more synapses are connected. You need very little to activate it. It's very interesting.
And in general, just lower doses I find are much more workable in medicine work anyway. So I think in general, it's a general recommendation I have. But final question, and I'd love for you to talk about Panchakarma, because I can share my experience. I spent 2 weeks at AmrtaSiddhi, and Elaine also did a 2-week Panchakarma at AmrtaSiddhi as well. And it was a huge reset for me. It really helped me come back into balance. And I was actually off my autoimmune condition medication for weeks after the Panchakarma. And so it really allowed me to, like you said earlier, on a cellular level, really reset and realign and really re-energize my whole body and system. And it was an experience. It was a ceremony by itself, and it went deep and it went into all the facets of my being. And so to me, it was the same as going through a plant medicine experience, but spread throughout 2 weeks, and much more manageable and easier and very nourishing. So I felt like my Ojas were really reset and much more elevated after I left the retreat. So I'd love for you to speak a bit about that, and how it can help people both prepare for a journey and also maybe potentially integrate an experience as well.
Panchakarma will be a very great way to do or prepare yourself before you go to the plant medicine experience. Panchakarma works on bringing back the balance of your three doshas, what should be, how much it should be, and what should be doing for your health and happiness. So when it goes out of balance, it means either excess or too low, it interferes with physiology, and we experience discomfort, pain, suffering, diseases as such. So Panchakarma has got 3 stages: preparing stage, and the actual cleansing stage, and then the integration or rejuvenation stage. So we prepare the body to loosen up all this excessive ama or excessive dosha, stiffness, tightness in the body, by drinking some medicated ghee, a lot of external, beautiful, relaxing massages, shirodhara, different kinds of treatments. So because anything is tight and stiff, nothing can move. So you want to be relaxed for the things to move. So that's what the preparatory stage is. And then once the body is saturated with ghee, that means your body is soft and loose and, fat. Why we use the ghee is because if anything is deep buried in your cells, our cell membrane is made out of fat. In order for things to move in and out, it has to go through the fat media. So we saturate the body so it could be easily dissolved and move out of the cells. So then we give a particular medication which has the intelligence to move excessive pitta or the inflammation, excessive kapha or vata. So you take that medication and you're going to purge. Some people, we induce the vamana, we call, where you remove the excessive kapha stagnation, ama, through the vomiting process. And then you do the virechana, which moves the toxins from small intestine, liver, pancreas, all those things through the bottom. And then we finish up that with basti, the final, to work on the vata and nervous system. So once the cleanse is over, your body will be a bit tired. So you need to strengthen the body back by simple nurturing food, strengthen your Agni, calm your intestines, and build and rejuvenation, we call, like a regenerating, re-strengthening your system. So that happens in the last stage of your program. When you come to a Ayurvedic center or a AmrtaSiddhi, you have a routine, you're with like-minded people, loving, nurturing care, and the constant support and monitoring from the physician. So you already go inward, you already prepare, not only just being in the place, also your intention, because you are guided in doing that, because no distraction from the external world. We don't put TV or internet in the room. So you just really go inward with yourself. And the cleansing treatments that we do, you just need to be ready, surrender, and to receive. So this is all. So it becomes easy for you to prepare. If you can come and do a Panchakarma before you go into the plant medicine journey. So you would already halfway through, what would the experience of clarity, enlightenment that you would receive? It will definitely multifold enhance your plant medicine experience if you would do a Panchakarma before. Or if you cannot do it, a simple cleanse, mindfulness, maybe talk to an Ayurvedic doctor or a naturopath who have the awareness of the plant medicine. So something you can definitely prepare from a professional guidance and get supported in that.
I highly recommend it. Like if I had known this years ago, I would have done a Panchakarma years ago, because it is really helpful and supportive, especially when it's done with a team of professionals and people who really take intentional care of not only the experience itself, but also in the way to deliver the services. And AmrtaSiddhi, I found, was very, very professional. And it's not a wellness tourist spot. It's a place for real work. It's a place for really going deep and to be supported by people who really care about this work on a very deep level. So if you want to come to Bali and check it out, I highly recommend it. If you come over, let us know. We'd love to see you. Highly recommend it. Thank you, Dr. Sujatha, for your time and for your support that you've offered me and Elaine. It's been very helpful, and we look forward to more in the future. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.